Hi guys, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Cesar or Cesar, either way works fine with me. We're going to work along the lab for today is related to additional content managing permissions with ACLs. Understanding, let me just extend the letter a little bit so you can see it better and read it better. So let's take a look. Understanding and managing file permissions is crucial for system administrators. While traditional Unix permissions offer a basic level of control, access control lists ACLs provide a more fine-grained approach, allowing specific permissions for individual users and groups. This guide will walk you through using ACLs to manage file permissions on a Linux system, especially using CentOS. In this case, it's actually AMA Linux or Rookie Linux, the new versions. The reason because it stated CentOS is because we were working along with the previous versions of CentOS before it expired. So that's the main reason. So let's start with the first command. We're going to create this file, example.tx, with the touch command. So I'm just going to go to the terminal and create it with touch example.txt. And let's just go ahead and copy the first command there. Okay, you see the permissions there. We have read and write, read permission, and read permission. Let's continue with the lab. Adding and modifying permissions. Okay, we're going to work along with Sarah and Cody, but we need to create those users because they don't really exist. So sudo user add Sarah. If I am able to do it one day, remember you have to type the password slowly because sometimes the system will not take it. We are going to create Cody. All right, there you go. Now let's create a password for them. Sudo Sarah, swd Sarah. And let's use the password for Cody. Okay, is passwd, remember, for the password. So we have to do passwd for Cody. Now we're going to do something important. Sudo nano etc sudo ers. We're going to add those, Sarah and Cody. So let me see if I'm able to get that. Okay, let's add them here. Let me just do the following. Control K, Control U, Control U, Control U. Okay, so it's Control K and Control U. That's what you need to do here. And we are going to add them here. We're going to add Sarah. Sarah, and we're going to add Cody. Control OX, Control X. All right, so it is actually when you're typing there, you have to do the following when you're trying to exit and save changes. So we are there and we type Control O, Enter, Control X, and there you go. Now let's move to Sarah. Let's move to Sarah. I think that is the first one in the guide. Let's move to Sarah to try to run that command. So it will be sudo Sarah. Okay, there you go. Now let's try to run the first command. We need to create an example text first because it doesn't really exist. So let's do the touch and create the file. Looks like we need the sudo to create this file for some reason. Okay, so it is letting me create it. Let's see. Okay, let me just go back. Let me just exit here. sudo nano etc. We need to do some changes here. Sudo ers. We need to go back to sudo ers and add them here as well. So let me just do that. Let me go there and I'm going to add them here. So we're going to have the same Control K, Control U, Control U, Control U, and we're going to add them. We're going to add, of course, Sarah first here, and then Cody. Hopefully this will fix the issues that we are encountering right now. Control X, enter, Control X. So if we execute the cat, you should be able to see that those changes that we just completed there. Yeah, there they are. So now let's try the sudo, the Sarah. Okay. After adding the password, we are in Sarah now. Let's do the touch and let's run example.tx. We still need to use the sudo here for some reason. Now the file exists, sudo ls. So maybe we need to add Sarah to some other place because it's not really having all the permissions that we want to have. You can see all the files and scripts and the example.tx there. But let's just use sudo for now with Sarah. We don't want to complicate things around. So let's just move along and let's write this one just to double check. We're going to give Sarah read and execute permissions on the file. So let's do that. There you go. And now let's see if we can do the same for Cody. Let's try to do so. Looks like we were able to do completely without any issues. So what happened now if we execute the sudo setfaco in this file, example.txt? I think we need to specify the specific user that we're trying to validate. Let me just go back to the first command that we were running before. Get facle example.txt. So we just have to type sudo and then the get facle. Sudo and get facle.txt. There you go. Now you can see the permissions for ZRM server in group owner and group. And you can see the specific permissions that we have for read, write, and execute for the users, Sarah and Cody. Nice. We are doing an amazing job. Congratulations today. Now let's remove the permissions with the following command. Let me just copy this command there, paste it. Now we're removing the execute permissions for Sarah. And that is basically it. Let's just run the command from previously, the get facle command, and you can see Sarah no longer has any permissions there. It doesn't even appear. It doesn't exist any longer in that specific file for permissions. So let's just continue along with the next command, which is to view the current ACL, is get facle null. We're going to return to we're going to stay here in Sarah for now. If we encounter any issues, we'll return to the main user. So let's just copy this one and paste it there. We don't have permissions. Remember, you have to use the sudo command. That is interesting. Let's return to the user with all access. Let's just do exit here. And let's do now the get facle null. Okay, you see the error there? I added get fall. It is actually get facle. It doesn't really exist. Interesting. So it should be a directory or a file. So to view the current ACL, it should be the current ACL, but I don't really see the current ACL there. Let's try to go back to Sarah, just to double check there. Sarah. Okay, so let's execute the following. Let's execute get facle and then null. We're running the sudo command in this case. the sudo, and it doesn't really exist. So maybe we need to create the directory. Let's just create the directory for now with mkdir and null. We're going to create the directory. Remember, you need to use the sudo command. You need to use the sudo command in order to create a directory. Let's just imagine that this is the actual directory with the, instead of a directory, let's create a file with the permissions. Rm sudo rm dir. Let's create a file with the permissions that we have previously. So let's use let's copy this permissions. Okay, in the null file. So we're going to go back there to the main user and do a nano and then null and enter. We're going to paste those permissions. Looks like we didn't have any luck. Control X, Control Z, Control X. No, we don't want to save any changes. So we're trying to copy this, but it doesn't let us do it. So we're going to open a template, a notepad, and paste it there. Open a notepad and paste it there. And now we're going to create it. Now let's just copy it from the notepad. Just copy there. Okay, yes, we want to save it, but we want to do some changes. We want to remove this. We don't want that. Okay, Control X. Now let's do a cat. And voila, there you have it. You have the specific permission for that file that it was supposed to be created for the ACL, but for some reason it wasn't created. So let's just have those permissions there for now. And let's move along with we're going to change some permissions for that ACL. This is only a simulation because for some reason it didn't really create it for the ACL. So we're just going to copy and paste the permissions there. And after adding the password, we can see different permissions for the null file. Let's do an ls-l, and you can see read and then execute, write, execute, read dash execute for the first group. Then we have for the other one, read, write, and execute, read, write, and execute. That's the permissions that we have now for the specific file. Let me just go back to the guide, and we're going to add specific permissions for Sarah. Let's see if we can do that because it didn't exist when we tried to create it. Looks like we were able to do so with no problems. Amazing. Good. Let's do the following. Let's run the get facle, and then the null, just to double check. There you go. Sarah has read, write, and execute permissions. Now let's remove the permissions. How do we do it? Basically, with the following command. We remove the permissions with this command, -x, set facle, and then the -x for Sarah. If we use the get facle, you don't see Sarah there any longer. It's very, very fast, but we are learning a lot today, so it's nice. And finally, we have to validate the get facle command to see if we were able to get the correct text in that specific ACL. Looks like we were able to do so with no issues after all, so it's amazing. I think that's pretty much everything for today's lessons, for today's class. I think we have covered everything. All right, no, we have more to go. So let me just create a backup for that specific ACL. We have more. So it was longer than I expected, but not a problem. There you are creating a backup file called that ACL. That is the backup file that you are creating for the specific example, that txt file. So let's go there and do the set facle restore. Why do we need this command? Specifically to restore files that we previously had. In case we lose information, you have the backup created with the .acl, and if you need to restore, you can use the restore option there. So set facle /restore equal example.txt.acl. That's the way to restore information from a backup file that we created previously. I think now we concluded the lesson for today. So ACLs are a powerful tool for managing file permissions in a granular way, but they require careful management to ensure they don't conflict with traditional Unix permissions, and that they provide the intended access controls. Use getVacuum and setVacuum to view and modify ACLs, and always verify the changes to ensure correct behavior. So that's pretty much everything for today's lesson. I hope that you have learned a lot. We encounter some problems and issues, of course, but it is part of the learning process, and you know that. So take care, guys, boys and girls. It's been a pleasure. Have a great week, and I see you around. I have a problem with the mouse, so let me just give me just a moment because it's not responding. So give me just a moment here while I try to fix it. Okay. So let me just stop the meeting. Have a good week, guys, boys and girls.